Do you ever feel the pressure of balancing playtime, screen time, and your family's lifestyle, while trying to keep it all stress-free and enjoyable? Have you ever noticed how your own lifestyle habits could be shaping your kids' behavior without even realizing it? You've heard of unstructured play, and that can be great for you and your kids. But do you have any ideas on how to get creative and find ways to keep the whole family moving together? You want to exercise yourself, but then you can't work out how this fits into your busy daily life. Let's take a look at our screen time, shall we? Do you ever think about how evening screen time affects your sleep, appetite, and energy levels? And are you struggling to set screen time limits with your kids? Or maybe even for yourself too? Well, do not worry, because all's not lost. Keep listening, grab a cup of coffee, or keep doing what you're doing, because today's podcast is all about you finding solutions to all of the above. Today I'm talking to Nick Fuller from the Charles Perkins Centre at the University of Sydney. Nick specialises in causes, prevention and treatment of obesity and related health issues, such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. His research covers a wide range of treatments, including dietary exercise strategies, medical devices and bariatric surgery. Passionate about a holistic approach to obesity treatment, Nick aims to clear up misconceptions perpetuated by unqualified individuals in an unregulated industry. His work has led to policy changes and been published in leading journals. He collaborates with both government and industry to create cost-effective solutions and has successfully commercialised research to improve global health. His interval weight loss program has gained recognition, including selection for the University of Sydney's Incubate program and several prestigious awards. Nick is also the best-selling author of 4 books, including Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids. Now, last week we explored the importance of healthy eating and sleep. And if you haven't heard this podcast, please go back and take a listen, because it has many takeaways for everyone. Today, we've got the pleasure of looking at the last 2 steps of Nick's research-based lifestyle plan that will benefit your whole family: Play Every Day and Screen Time Showdown. So if you've ever found yourself struggling about how much time your family spends on screens or how to prioritise outdoor play, you're in the right place. Hi, Nick. Welcome back. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Last time when we discussed your 4 steps of the research-based lifestyle plan that benefits the whole family, and we talked about health, not weight, reach for nature first, the full rainbow of food, and your meal times. Now, these were really, really insightful, and we discussed lots of ideas about how to implement them home. And today I'm excited for you to walk us through the final 2 steps: Play Every Day and Screen Time Showdown.
Well, I mean, the important point to highlight, I guess, off the bat is that we all get caught up in diet. We think it's all about diet, but it's actually about diet, exercise, and sleep health. These are the 3 key pillars of a sort of healthy lifestyle and healthy habits that we should be forming in the 4 walls of our own home. And it's not 80% diet, 20% exercise. Guess what? It's actually a third. And what I mean by that is it's an even split. 33% should be diet, 33% should be exercise, and 33% should be sleep health. Because if we get all of these habits under control, we know that does result in healthy weight management and prevention of metabolic disease. So yeah, healthy parents, healthy kids is not just about, overcoming food fussiness, getting them to enjoy nature's treats, but it's also about getting them outdoors and moving and integrating activity into their day-to-day lives, and also establishing a new routine, particularly in the evening when it comes to screens, because we're getting very poor quality sleep. We're having a hard time falling asleep, and we're having a hard time staying asleep, which then has a huge flow-on effect with decisions we're making the next day. But again, it affects our weight.
So let's start with our play every day. For a start, a lot of our children don't get time to play, particularly younger kids in their natural environment. They now do have screen time. Play is so important, and particularly play that is unstructured in those early years. So I do remember sitting in a park, bored stupid, while my children played, I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah. But I did it because I knew it was the right thing to do. So can you talk to us about play at that age to start with, and then as we get older, just talk us through.
Absolutely. And you can be pulling your hair out when you're going to playground after playground after playground. But play is also important for us as adults.
Mhm.
Okay, there's a lot to be said for any sort of movement. It takes us away from the addiction to screens. It gives our children the attention they need as well. So what we're not allowing in the modern day environment is that opportunity of play. When there is downtime, children are often found in different rooms of the house, doing their own thing, not socializing, and often on devices. So
Mm.
one of the key things, remember, of healthy parents, healthy kids is getting the whole family on board and integrating these healthy habits in the four walls of your own home. So allow for these opportunities of play. And play also means play for adults. So when they're going to the playground, if they're doing their own thing and playing with other children or other siblings, you can still be moving at that particular time. If you're going to the park and they don't want you to participate with them, you could be walking around or running around the oval while they're playing either unstructured or structured sport.
Mhm.
So see it as a benefit for you and them, but importantly, they need lots of opportunity to get outdoors. And any sort of, I guess, downtime, free time needs to be seen as that opportunity to play. Take them to different environments. Allow them to explore different playgrounds, grasslands, whatever parks, and whatever it might be, because not all kids love the same thing, but
Mm.
all kids love some form of movement. And what I mean by that is some might like to go for a walk or go for a bike ride, but hate going to the pool. Okay, so you've got to find what that environment is that your child or children love. Take them to that environment on a regular basis, but continually offer new environments. So instead of always going to the same park, take them to new parks, new playgrounds, new recreation centres, because there's a lot to be learnt from what we get from that environment. We too, as adults, get excited by new places and new environments and look forward to that exercise if you're constantly practicing that sort of approach. And what we also need to focus on is incidental activity. Now, we keep harping on about structured activity, particularly when it comes to adults. The madness of it is we drive, for example, to the gym. We get out of the car in the parking lot, get the elevator up to the gym, do our session for 30 minutes, get back in the car and drive home, and we haven't moved for the rest of the day. But what we've got to start doing is intertwining exercise into our day-to-day movement. And what I mean by that is if you have the opportunity, walking your kids to and from school, even when you get to the shopping centre, parking further away so there's more steps to the centre, using steps instead of lifts, role modelling these behaviours in front of your children so that they start to think that exercise is not a nice to have or movement's not a nice to have, but it's actually a must have, and it's intertwined in their DNA. And you're forming those neuronal connections to know that exercise is just something that I do, something that will always be part of my day-to-day life. But unfortunately, we're sort of evolving the next generation to think that exercise is just a nice to have. It's not a must have, but we evolve to move. It's such an important part of the puzzle. It's very important for prevention of a lot of health conditions, a lot of benefits independent of weight loss. And there's so much to be said for just getting outdoors on a regular basis every day and offering play to your children and yourself.
Mm. And you're also building up fitness within them without them knowing. You know, a child that is constantly walking around is getting fitter. When they are, this is when they're young, but also young children are often put into structured activities again. You know, 4-year-olds and they're try. It's like herding cats, but you know, they're often put into those kind of activities too. So the emphasis that we have nowadays on children and sport and exercise is often as well. We pick you up from school, we take you, you do a structured activity. You might be doing soccer skills or something like that. You're not actually getting a full on fitness, you know, it's not building your fitness necessary, and then jump in the car and you come back home and you sit on a device or you do whatever. So like you say, without any incidental exercise, often they're not really exercising. You might say, oh, my kid plays soccer or does sport 5 times a week, but they might only get 5 half hours of something and nothing else at all. So what do you say to parents about that?
Yeah, this is it's very true, and it's
Mm,
very evident when we start,
mm,
asking those open-ended questions and getting into the nitty-gritty detail of how exercise is intertwined into their day-to-day lives. And again, we're very time poor. Often, if we've got multiple children, we might be driving from one environment to the next to the next. But we've got to start prioritizing our
mm,
health. Now, if you have the
mm,
opportunity,
mm.
and you're dropping your kid off to structured sport and you're watching, instead of standing there on the sidelines, move at the same time. You can still be actively watching your children. If you are driving from A to B to C and you're having very little time for yourself, you've got to then work out how you can get it into your day-to-day life. Okay, simple things like we wait for an elevator, well, we should be using the stairs. If
Mm,
we can get public
mm,
transport, often that does result in a significant increase in our steps throughout the day as well. So all of those short bouts of exercise add up, get you huffing and puffing, and are just as effective as a 30-minute block. So we're just getting our parents to basically rethink how you can incorporate incidental activity into your day-to-day life. Many do have that opportunity where they can ride to and from school or walk to and from school, and that completely changes the amount of movement they start getting. But like you said, there's so many benefits from skill development, coordination, and also the heart health benefits that we've got to be enforcing, because that is so critical to that growth and development of your child. And again, allowing them to grow into a healthy weight. We've become far too sedentary. There's far too much
mm.
couch time. If you've got older kids, they're set in their ways. You've got to get the whole family on board. And what I mean by that is get friends involved as well. When they're coming around, everyone goes out as a unit together and gets moving. We know this works. It's just about overcoming those old habits and replacing old habits with new positive habits that in this instance are going to get people moving and families moving together.
That's a great idea, the friends idea, because often you can't get your child out. But if you do something with a friend, they're quite happy to go along. I think that's a fantastic idea, particularly teen years as well, where they don't really want to be seen with parents in that form. If you're friends with another person and they've got the kids your age, it's often be great to go and do those type of things as well. But it's very hard to get out and exercise as a parent during those years. I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning and exercise at that time because there were no children around and nor was my husband, so it was all good. But sometimes you have to put yourself out. You do have to actually make time, don't you? You've got to actually go, I've got to make time for this because it's really important.
You do. You have to put it into your calendar. It has to be a sort of standing placement at a time that works for you.
Yes.
And that might be first thing in the morning, as you just
Mm.
highlighted, or it might be at lunchtime or the end of the day if you've got a partner on board as well. You work out what works for them, what works for you. But you've got to keep role modeling that. You've got to be healthy and active yourself. And that rubs off on your children. They're always watching our every move. So if you're seen to be exercising, trust me, it's something that they want to start doing as well. Same for
Mm.
food, same for the
Mm.
devices.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we have no idea how important we are in our children's lives in that sense. Absolutely. So let's talk about screen time. Oh, I want to tell you that I am so lucky that I did not have the struggles that you as a parent has these days. Yeah, even my children who are 30 say, "Oh, you were so lucky because we only had something called MySpace and there wasn't the same connection with the whole social media that there is now." So what do you recommend? Because I can't recommend anything because I really didn't have that struggle to that degree. So what do you do?
Right. Yeah. Look, I think the first thing to highlight for the listeners is that why do screens have an effect on our sleep, and how do they actually affect our weight?
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
Now, the reason is because, as we all know, these are often the last thing we're using before we go to bed. So I'm going to highlight the evening routine to start
mhm,
with. Now, the last thing we're engaging with before we try and get some sort of shut eye or sleep. Now, that means that they're emitting blue light and they're
mhm,
suppressing melatonin production in the brain. And that's basically telling your brain it's daytime instead of nighttime. So you end up having a hard time getting to sleep. Same with your children. And then even if you do get asleep, a hard time staying asleep and getting that good quality sleep. Now, what that means is you wake up sleep deprived. And when we subject our study participants to just one night of sleep deprivation, being less than 7 hours of sleep for adults, varying amounts for children and adolescents, but 7 hours for adults, after one night, when I take blood samples off you the next morning, your appetite hormones are going haywire.
Wow.
Ghrelin, for example, the appetite hormone produced in the stomach, acting on the brain, telling you to go and reach for food, it's going up. Okay, so you wake up feeling hungrier after one night of sleep deprivation, plus your brain activity is changing. The sleep deprivation is basically telling your brain to go and reach for high-calorie foods. So it means you're more likely to go to the vending machine or the corner store to satisfy that high you're looking for. And you're less likely to spend time preparing food or reaching for nature's first. You're looking for that quick, easy fix. Now, the other thing is that your kids also wake up sleep deprived. And what do? They start screaming out for the sugar, processed foods first thing in the morning, and the tantrums start earlier than they otherwise would. So it has this negative flow-on effect. And then as we're sleep deprived throughout the day, we're less likely to engage in other healthy behaviors like activity because we're lethargic. We just feel like sitting down on the couch. And then we're stuck in that cycle again. We go to bed the next night, we're on the devices, etc., etc. So what we've got to do is start rethinking what that evening routine looks like. And what I mean by that is we've got to get people off screens. Okay, so get the family together and engage in some other healthy habit or behavior at that time. So it might be helping them with their homework, learning a new hobby, going for a walk together, whatever it is, to ensure that there's 1 to 2 hours, preferably before bed, every night with no screens, to allow for melatonin to do its job, for allow you to get to sleep and stay asleep. Now, that's the, I guess, key point to highlight with why screens are so, I guess, dangerous in terms of weight management. But the second is that they often displace healthy behaviors. So what I mean by that is if you're just sitting on the screen, tablet, phone, or watching TV, it means you're less likely to be engaging in what we just talked about, being movement or physical activity. So with healthy parents, healthy kids, we're getting you to replace those unhealthy behaviors with a new healthy behavior, changing what that evening routine looks like in particular, and ensuring every possible chance of being able to get to sleep and stay asleep so that we don't wake up hungry, we don't have those ghrelin levels surging, telling us to go and eat more, and we prevent the tantrums and the kids reach or screaming out for the processed sugar foods first thing when they wake up.
Wow, that's huge. After I had actually read your book last week, I'm well aware that I read I'm on my phone right up to bedtime. So this week I have actually practiced that, and it has been much better. I sleep reasonably well, but I've gone off to sleep much better. So it is all about making changes too, isn't it? You've got to, if you've got the science behind it, I think it's easier to make change for people. So if we've heard what you have to say about it, I'm sure that will make sense to a lot of people about why you make the change. There's always got to be a why to things, and I think it's great that you have that why. And so let's talk about setting boundaries for kids and how hard that is for them, and what areas do you best recommend limiting it in?
Yeah, look, it starts from the minute you sort of walk in the door. So if you've picked up kids, for instance, from school or daycare, often we're scrolling the minute we get inside. That tends to then, I guess, separate the family unit, and everyone else starts to get on their devices at the same time. So the first thing you need to be doing is, again, role modeling. Put that damn phone away. Put it in the drawer. Put it in a place that's not visible, that's not accessible, so you can give your children their full attention. Because again, if you're on the phone, what do they want? They want the phone as well. And then the next step, which we talked about in the previous podcast around mealtime, we've got to be giving them their full or your full attention. So we can't be seen to be scrolling in front of them at the dinner table. We need to have all the phones So if you've got older kids, this means getting the phone off them and putting into a box, a physical box, away from the dinner table. So we're not engaging with devices at that particular time. So setting simple rules like that allows the whole family unit to come together. Now, if you've got younger kids, it's particularly easy to say no phones in the bedroom, no phones at the dinner table, etc., etc. If you've got older kids, teenagers, it's still possible. You've just got to get them on board. Allow them to feel in control and explain why you're sort of or making that change in the family home and the benefits around it. Talk about those fascinating things that take place after sleep deprivation, like the ghrelin levels that are surging. They
Yeah.
love to learn about this. And when they feel like, I guess, they're well-informed, well-educated, they're more likely to get on board. And if you allow them to make that decision with you, they're definitely more likely to implement that rule as well, especially when it comes to adolescents, teenagers in the bedroom. So you've got to get the whole family on board. You've got to set hard rules, and you've got to role model those behaviours. Even if you're, having bath time and you've got younger kids, you can't be seen to be scrolling or engaging with your phone at that time. You need to give them your full attention because, again, you're role modeling those behaviours. The monkey see, monkey do. Whatever you're doing, they want to do. They're particularly malleable during those first 2,000 days up to 5 years of age. So get it right. And if you've got older children, it's still positive, but it's just going to take a little bit of extra work because you've got these ingrained habits in place. You're going to get a lot more pushback. And this is why it's important to get everyone on board and allow them to feel in control of the changes you're making.
So even saying to your older children, we're going to put in some rules. What do you think? What do you see as fair? How we're going to do it, using those kind of things so that they do feel part of the whole process. The other thing that I have noted, I taught in the early learning centres, and parents come in and they want to have a conversation with another parent and they hand their child who's 4 an iPad or something like this. So just being aware of what you do, because I'm sure it's an unconscious thing, is that when a child needs quietening, nowadays it's quite simple to hand them one of these devices. So I think being aware yourself as an adult about how much you use it, you're the person in charge. Like, really, they're not going to grab that device, like you say with the monkey do. They're not going to do it unless you hand it to them or unless they're around for them to see. So behavior is massively important in that respect. And I think that, kids like rules. And if you give them a rule and you hold on to it, they actually don't mind as long as they know the reasons behind the rules. My kids often used to ask me not to let them go out at night with some friends. And I said to them once, why? And they said, because I don't want to, but I need you to say I'm not allowed to go. So rules are okay. We've got to remember that it's quite comforting for children to feel that there are guidelines in place.
100%. And this couldn't be more relevant when it comes to food and exercise and sleep habits that we're forming. They do love rules. And remember, we're the parents. We need to be leading by example, and we can't keep giving in to these demands. Of course, you are going to get pushback when you first make these changes, again, as we highlighted with older kids. But eventually, everyone does come on board. So, look, get them excited about it. Explain why you're making the changes and ask them those open-ended questions, as you just alluded to, so they feel in control.
Yeah. Could talk to you forever, Nick. Thank you so much for being on today. The stuff that you say is amazing. Your book is excellent, and I highly recommend it to anyone that really wants to put processes back in their life of becoming healthy parents and helping their kids become healthy. Thanks again for your such valuable insights.
Well, thank you for your very kind words, and it was absolute pleasure talking to you, Kate.
Thanks, Nick. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to leave you with a few thought-provoking questions and ideas to consider as you implement these changes in your own family life. How can you create more opportunities for play in your day-to-day routine? Remember, it's not just about the kids, it's about adults too. We need to play as well. Whether it's a walk in the park or trying a new activity, find ways to move together as a family. And what's one small change you can make today to reduce screen time, especially in those hours before bed? Could you start by putting away devices during mealtime, or setting up a new evening routine that encourages connection and relaxation? Think about how this could actually improve everyone's sleep, reduce stress, and even foster better family relationships. Now remember, these changes don't have to be drastic. Start with small steps, and remember, consistency is the key. I hope that today's conversation has inspired you to rethink how play and screen time fit into your family's well-being. Thank you for listening to Parenting and Personalities. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave a rating and a review that would help others learn about the podcast. If you're interested in discovering more about you and your family's personality types, you'll find my book, Who Is This Monster or Treasure in My House, on Booktopia or Amazon. If you have an episode idea, please send a note to thepersonalitycoach@gmail.com. Many thanks to our producers at Stories and Strategies, and we'll see you next time.